Welcome to Softcore History.
Welcome back to Softcore History. I am your host for the week, Dan Regester. Jake Oldman is out.
He abandoned us.
He did.
Actually. He said, I'm kind of tired of this life. I think chasing this podcast dream is irresponsible and childish. And he was like, I'm just growing up.
So we suspended him for the week.
Yeah. We were like, why don't you just get your head out of your ass, come back in a week, see what you think.
Get shit straight.
Yeah.
No, apparently he's sick again.
He thinks he has COVID.
Probably.
He is fully vaxxed, but he says he might have COVID. I don't know if he went to get tested today or if he's just chugging like Dayquil at home.
Has he had it before?
I don't think he has.
He hasn't, actually.
No.
Him and his wife didn't ever get it.
So, of course,
They're clean.
That other voice you hear, the regular voice you hear, Rob Fox. We can skip past that. We don't really need to ask about you.
There's nothing here.
But yeah, we brought Coop back.
I'm back. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Well,
our,
thank Jake
yeah,
for
really,
catching
Jake.
COVID.
Thank you, Jake.
You're
I
kind of like
appreciate
our
you dropping the
bullpen,
ball.
our bullpen guy. Call you in.
Pinch hitter. Yeah.
Anytime you need me, I'm here.
So we figured we'd call you in because we're going. You're our military expert.
And that was actually a little bit of a shock to me when I came in today because I honestly did spend about an hour reading about the bass player from Led Zeppelin before I came in here.
Because today's topic is John Paul Jones. We teased it on the Instagram. Yeah, you're familiar with the bassist and keyboardist of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, slightly familiar with the, he was a admiral or something along those lines, right?
He was a Navy man in the U.S.
Yeah, a lot of people
in the Colonial Navy, I guess you could call it.
A
I
lot
don't know
of
what it's
people
actually
kind of consider him the father of the U.S. Navy.
Yeah, he was the first Navy's first like badass. I was surprised. This is kind of a bit of a normie topic for you.
Yeah, well, obviously it's Jake's week.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You kind of had to. So
This
Jake
was last minute. This was a fill-in. This is episode 50,
yeah.
by the way. It's kind of a milestone.
another.
Wow.
That's another eyebrow raiser, by the way. Do you think Jake just didn't have a topic and he was like,
You got to think.
yeah, I don't know. I believe it.
We put enough pressure on him as is.
Yeah.
Coming up with the topic for episode 50, that's a lot of pressure because that is a milestone.
Yeah.
It's a milestone number.
Yep.
This is a milestone man. John Paul Jones. Originally born John Paul. Jones was a name he adopted later on in life. We'll get to that.
His last name was Paul.
John Paul.
That's weird.
Got to think he was related to the Paul brothers.
Yeah, I think Chris Paul. Maybe there was some slight relationship there.
Chris Paul? No, I'm talking Logan Paul.
Oh, man. I would actually fucking.
The more famous Paul brothers.
I would hate it so much if they were descended from John Paul Jones.
I bet they are.
I would.
God, that would be such a slap in the face to him.
It would be so fucking terrible because the second they found out about it, you'd never hear the end of it. I mean, we know what his famous quote is. You'll probably get to that at some point, but that would be scrawled across every one of their stupid boxing shorts. It'd be on each fucking glove. Like,
It would be so fit in for their career now.
yeah,
The quote.
Yes.
We'll get to that too later
Yeah.
on. But yeah, he was born on the southwest coast of Scotland in 1747 to a family of gardeners. So didn't grow up in nobility, but he was nobility adjacent because they worked for a bunch of noblemen.
Not really. Sure, nobility adjacent.
Yeah, like trimming
That's
their
like
hedges and
that's
stuff.
like a prisoner being like, yeah, I'm freedom adjacent. Because I know people who aren't in prison.
Amazon warehouse employees saying they're billionaire adjacent. Close enough.
Listen, Bezos contributed that rocket to every single Amazon worker, okay? They played a piece in history.
He did it for all of them.
That seemed like such an insult when he was saying that he had to thank the Amazon employees because they helped pay for it.
You know what?
Yeah, by not
That's
getting a
probably
salary.
more than the pharaohs did for the people who built the pyramids,
Hey, true.
right? You know Khufu's name. You know anyone else's name? Fucking no.
Did the pharaohs at least let him scribble some graffiti all over the?
Did they
over the
let him?
pyramids? Yeah, true. But Bezos didn't let any Amazon employees.
Were they
drop dicks on his
micromanaging
rocket.
the building of the pyramids?
Dude, maybe. I mean, it's mathematically, it seems like it was pretty micromanaged.
But not on the pharaoh level.
Yeah, he was, had an engineer probably. He's just like, yeah, just make it hot. But I mean, was Bezos micromanaging the rocket math?
I'd like to think so.
Made it into space, so I don't think he was.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's the no. He's an idea guy.
Yeah, but he came up with the rocket design for sure.
Oh, definitely.
I don't understand why they're so mad.
Optically.
Like,
Probably
it's
scribbled
funnier.
out on a notebook when he was a teenager.
Yeah, it's funny to take your short, white, stubby dick and shove it into space. Like, that's funny. That's great. I don't know why everyone's so mad.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
If you had the money to do it,
I'd do it.
I would do it every time.
Yeah.
So John Paul Jones, age 13, I guess he was done picking weeds, being a gardener, decided to hit the open sea.
Oh, he didn't like being nobility adjacent anymore?
Sure
Wasn't
didn't.
good enough for him?
Yeah.
Highfalutin gardener over here.
Pretty common choice for those who grew up in the Scottish coast who wanted to leave. He got the blessing of his family and became an apprentice aboard the merchant ship Friendship, sailing out of the northern English county Cumberland under Captain Benson.
Pretty grim that, like, it's always a better option in this time, unless you're rich, to just go live on a shitty boat.
Yeah, because the Friendship was about 80 feet by 22 feet, so a very small ship to hit the open sea. Crew of 28.
Yeah, he's not on a Disney cruise here.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to the size of I think they were called caravels that Columbus used to make his famous voyage. You guys probably heard of it at some point.
Of course.
Yeah, Caravel, we all.
Who could forget?
Yeah.
Who could? Small ship, but would make a yearly voyage from Whitehaven to Barbados to Fredericksburg, Virginia, where his older brother, William Paul, so the Paul brothers, the original Paul brothers, had settled in the colonies as a tailor in an unhappy, loveless marriage. They made note of this, by the way.
To be fair, though, yeah, it's impressive that has lasted through the ages, by the way.
They're like,
like that
they're like
fucking
William
made it.
Paul's wife was a real bitch.
Like, that is jotted down in history. Like, that wasn't lost to history. People know that John Paul Jones's brother had a shitty wife, or maybe he was a shitty husband, but either way, it was just a dead marriage. But does it count as a bad marriage if, like, they knew other people in love and they were love adjacent?
You got to think at least one couple in Fredericksburg, Virginia, was at least in love. So yes, they were
love adjacent.
Yeah. He was happy to always bail on his wife when his younger brother came in. So his brother would make his annual voyage, and I guess this made a bit of an impression on John Paul because this is where he starts to really fall in love with the colonies and get excited for the prospects of the colonies moving forward. He's just like, I see something here.
And this is what, the 1750s at this point?
So he was born in 47.
So 1760s.
Yeah,
60s. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Because he started 13.
Okay.
Starting young.
So he would just go to Virginia and bro down with his brother?
Yep.
And it made
business trip.
And it made his brother hate his marriage?
No, his brother already hated his marriage. So whenever John came into town, he was very happy to leave his wife at home and then just kind of showed John around.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like he had a terrible wife. If you're the terrible husband, it's usually the spouse that's leaving, I would think.
Yeah. I think he was probably just pissed. She's like, babe, I'm going out. She's like, where are you going? I'm going out. My brother's in town. It took him 5 months to get here. God, fuck.
So after the French and Indian War, England was in a bit of a financial downturn. So the Friendship was sold and its crew disbanded. So now, 16 years old, John Paul had 3 years sailing experience with no merchant ship gigs, really hitting his ZipRecruiter search. He's just kind of hitting Indeed.
I don't get why that would affect his job. Like the British being in debt from the French and Indian War, wouldn't they need to trade
They're merchant
more
sailors. I don't know why, but apparently the ship, I guess the owner just kind of came into financial trouble.
There was a recession, I guess, or something.
Recession hit England, and they sold the ship. Crew disbanded, so he was unemployed.
By the way, the best part about this is just a little aside. Is that the whole reason that the revolution started, or like got sparked essentially, was the taxation or whatever, and the taxation was because of the debt from the French and Indian War,
yeah.
And the French and Indian War happened because the colonists were like, protect us from the French and the Indians, and then we were mad that they did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, there's
good times.
Yeah, there's several butterfly effects from it.
It's just a funny chain of events.
So 16, kind of, He's unemployed. He
Typical.
took a job in one of the few recession-proof industries, blackbirding, aka slave trade. So you can
Yeah.
cancel John Paul Jones already. Go
Cancel.
ahead.
Father of the U.S. It's really more noteworthy when they aren't connected to slavery.
It's insane if they like somehow avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't even know how you do at that point.
16 years old. He was third mate aboard the King George for 2 years. Then moved over to another Blackbird ship called Two Friends.
What a fun name
Fun and flirty
for
name
a
for
horrifying trade.
yes.
It would have been a little worse if they were carrying him on the friendship.
Yeah, that's true. Nothing friendly there.
Two Friends.
I'm trying to think of fun, sweet names for other horrifying occupations.
They didn't really try with these ship names, by the way.
Well, like,
I mean, the Friendship, the fucking King George, and then the Two Friends.
the Two Friends.
Yeah, it's just called Two Friends.
All right, why not?
So he is the first mate on the Two Friends, moving his way up, you know, before ultimately feeling morally bad about what he was doing with his life.
Look, man, you ship slaves from, you steal human beings from their home and ship them across an ocean to be slaves a couple dozen times, and, you know,
You might start to wear on your conscience a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
So he does one.
The over-under is literally about 12
Yeah.
before it really...
He does one voyage on the Two Friends, and then he's like, "I'm out. I can't do this anymore." Eventually, refers to this as an abominable trade. He resigns. Still a teenager, of course. He's like about 18, 19 at this point.
That's kind of impressive for a teenager to come to that conclusion when there were adults that were very much not of the same mindset.
I disagree. I
I think
think...
it was like a punk rock thing.
Yeah,
He was
that's
just
exactly
going-
what I was gonna say. I think he's like,
rebelling,
man, fuck the government, and like, fuck this corporate shit, man, corporate slave stuff. Like, fuck that. Whereas the adults are like, grow up. We're putting the slaves on the boat, John. Well, he was right though, but
yeah, obviously.
sometimes that's right. Sometimes I don't know if it's like a broken clock situation or
Yeah,
he was
sometimes
actually.
it's good to actually fade life.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
rest of life.
But
to be
you know,
the
it wouldn't surprise me if at 18, 19, he was just like, fuck corporate. It was just the equivalent of fuck corporations.
Yeah, that
but
was him. That was his version of just being against fucking sellouts, man.
yeah, fucking. I
I
don't,
like to think he actually had a moral quandary.
Yeah, me too. I hope so. I'm not trying to be like a pessimist about it. I just don't put anything past a teenager. Yeah. Although to be fair,
You're 18, 19 at that point. You're an adult.
yeah, that time, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Yeah.
been doing this shit since he was 13.
And he probably looked 30. So, yeah, all right, he's an adult.
well, he
He
was
was
also
considered middle age.
yeah.
well, he is regarded like we'll get to it. Like he was a handsome man, but he was a small feller.
small for the time?
He was 5'5".
That's not small for the time.
He was small for the time.
No, it is
They
not.
made note that he was small for the time.
5'5" was like the average height of an American male in like the beginning of the 20th century.
We will move past this, and I will rebut that later.
Okay.
Yeah. So he hops off in Jamaica and finds a ride back to Britain with a fellow Scot aboard the aptly named vessel, the John. John just hopped on the John.
I actually was thinking about this earlier when you were like, all these ship names suck. They just, like, they're very early in the creative, like, content game, so everything's in play. Do you know what I mean?
All the IPs available.
All the IP is available. So they can just do the most basic shit possible, and it's new.
Yeah, like at John.
Yeah. Yes. Literally. Like, I'm sure the first boat was just called the Boat.
Bodie McFaceface.
Yeah, Boaty McBoatface or whatever. Yeah, I mean, they don't have to be creative yet. No one's thought of everything. No one's thought of most things yet.
They haven't started running out of usernames.
Literally, not even close.
They don't have to add numbers to their handles.
No.
Yeah.
2 friends _ 420.
So during this voyage back to Britain, both the master and the first mate died of fever. So John Paul just decides to take things into his own hands and sails the John back to her home port. Happy he returned the ship and didn't just go fully rogue pirate. The owners rewarded John Paul with his first command at age 20.
Damn. Wait, so was he was just a passenger?
He was a passenger, decided I will just, because
I'll do it.
Captain and the first mate died,
Right.
so he's just like, I'll just take the ship back. I'm used to this. I know what I'm
Christ,
doing.
The way that people got jobs back then, where it's just like if you're there when they need somebody and you're just a little bit smarter than everybody else around,
Yeah.
they'll go ahead and hand it over. Like the battlefield commissions that they would do. You know, people with very little experience just keep moving up and up because of people above them die, and they just, well, this guy can read. Let's promote him.
It's not much different than it is now. Like, as long as you have the confidence and really a lanyard around your neck, you can go
yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, the lanyard's the key.
Yeah.
Lanyard or a ladder will get you into any event that you want.
Yes, and if you have the confidence and you don't question yourself, or it doesn't seem like you're out of place, nobody has a problem with it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It didn't take a lot of work for me to get into the maternity ward the other day when my wife was in there. No one looked at me twice. Like I just walked in like I was supposed to be there.
And that's VIP access.
Yeah.
That's actually a little shocking that you can just walk right into a maternity ward.
And you
Yeah.
just take a baby.
I was about to say the NICU might as well have been a fucking produce section. Like you just grab what I need and fucking go. It was a farmer's market for babies.
Walking by, squeezing their heads. No, this
Yeah,
one's a
no,
little
it's
too
not
soft,
right. Yeah,
overripe.
it's a soft skull.
So John and 6 crew members made one trouble-free voyage to Jamaica under his command, but the second trip on the John, when he was captain, was a little bit rockier.
I've had a lot of rocky trips on the John.
Ew.
Hey, that's why we have you here, Coop. Who needs
Talking
Jake?
diarrhea.
Who needs Goldman?
No one. You hear that, Jake? I know you're listening.
Episode 50, and you missed out. Milestone episode.
You better be here for the 1 year.
Which is in like 2 weeks.
2
by
weeks.
the way.
Yeah, it's kind of like this is kind of like a weak ass milestone considering the 1 year's 2 weeks from now.
Right, because we haven't missed an episode.
Right.
So I'd imagine it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Something
probably.
like that. Give or take. So a crew member was bitching about wages and claimed John Paul's discipline was unnecessarily cruel. So the claims were initially dismissed, but the crew member dies a few weeks later. The death was linked to yellow fever, but John Paul's reputation as a player's coach took a hit.
Oh, well, to be fair, it doesn't help John Paul in terms of the wage and discipline situation that he used to ship slaves places. It's a double strike.
Slightly skewed view on what people should be paid for their labor.
Right, and the discipline with which labor is procured.
Yeah, so the crew member that dies kind of comes back as a problem later on because
Is it a zombie?
not as a zombie, but his family is kind of influential in the biz.
It doesn't. Oh, in the
It
biz.
wasn't just a normal crew member.
I was about to say, if you're a crew member on a boat at that time, I A, barely believe you have a family, and B, don't believe you're influential in any way whatsoever. But
Right, but this guy was like a kid. Essentially a kid who just got an internship.
Oh, yeah.
and his dad like runs the company.
that's kind of what. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured the situation was.
Some little rich kid on his year abroad.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna do something tough for a year. He's in the Peace Corps.
He probably could have gotten away with literally murdering anybody else on that ship, and that one kid that died of fever is the wrong one.
I would have just been like, he's a fucking soft hands. Of course he died of fever.
So to kind of wipe his hands clean of this situation, he moves on to a bigger 3-mast ship called the Betsy.
Does that wipe his hands of it?
He just kind of
He just left.
Just got him.
Is that wiping your hands of it in any way whatsoever?
Well, we've talked about this, right? It was at a time where as long as you were out of frame and out of mind,
Yeah.
yeah, you just move on to another ship.
things
You move to another part of the world and nobody hears from you again.
The things you could get away with, I'm just going to say prior to World War II, essentially, as a cutoff, were just phenomenal. And even then, there were like hundreds of active serial killers in like the 70s. So really anything prior to 1980, the things you could get away with, just goddamn bananas.
So John on the Betsy made a pretty penny for the time, but the ship was constantly having maintenance issues with leaks and holes, and he faced a mutiny a time or two, most notably in Tobago, where the ringleader, twice his size, named Blackton,
Blackton.
I don't know if that's his government name,
Probably.
probably not his government name.
Blackton?
Yes.
Blackton?
Blackton, yes.
That probably means he's like the son of a blacksmith or something. And
No, it was just a giant black man.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
No,
It was
it
just a huge black guy.
Yeah, it was a giant guy from Tobago.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
just a big black guy.
Just a big black guy that
Yeah.
they just called Blackton.
Well, to be fair, that is how most last names came about.
True.
It's like, hey, you're this.
Yeah.
So that's your last name now.
Blackton had a problem with Paul, took a swing with a club at his head, which, of course, he's 5'5", so he ducked it pretty easily and came back and stabbed the giant brute through the midsection with a sword and downed the much bigger man who was actually a Tobago local.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So
Honestly, it doesn't feel like that big of an upset since he had the sword.
he
Yeah.
was low man wins, you know?
Yeah, well, sword man wins usually too, when there's only one sword man.
You don't bring a club to a sword fight.
You don't.
Was he a popular local?
Yes. So, fearing he would not get a fair local trial because Blackton's connections to the area or a fair trial in Admiral's Court, since the first mutineer who died on the John of Yellow Fever's family was actually very influential in this space, he dipped out and added the Jones alias to the end of his name.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. A white guy worried that he's not going to get a fair trial.
Yeah.
And where was it? He was Tobago?
Is
Yeah.
it Tobago or Tobago?
Tobago.
I've
Trinidad and
heard-
Tobago.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
But I
Tobago.
mean, Tobago. They're probably both wrong.
Tobago.
Yeah.
Let's call the whole thing off.
So Captain Paul killed those mutineers either with his blade or some type of sea voodoo, but Captain Paul Jones never spilled blood.
No.
That's why I changed
Did he
his name.
hyphenate it?
No, there's
Never
no hyphen.
traded slaves.
So
either.
Paul just became his middle name.
So it's just Captain Paul Jones.
Okay.
John Paul Jones.
Yeah. I like how the least sketchy thing about him so far is that he traded slaves.
Wait, and how old was he at that point? Roughly when he stabbed Blackton?
So he is about 22 at this time.
Jesus.
What a life.
Already traded slaves, became the captain of his own ship.
Pretty much been sailing for a
Murdered the
decade at this
guys.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not accomplish nearly that much. by
What
the
a
age of
life.
22.
And we're not even halfway done. He sought refuge and laid low with his brother William in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Broing down again in Fredericksburg, leaving his wife behind. Babe, my fucking brother's here and you had two mutinies against him just going out. Just, babe, shut the fuck up. Just watch the kids.
During this time, he becomes a Mason and eventually settles down in Philadelphia, where he meets some of the colony's political elites like John Hancock and, of course, Benny Franklin.
Joining the Masons is a long way from fuck corporations. Yeah. just 4 years later.
Wait, was he actually was he a normal Mason or one of the Freemasons? Or were they one and the same back then?
Were they one and the same?
If you said he joined the Masons, it probably means he joined the Freemasons.
Freemasons,
That's
yeah.
what I would think.
I would guess.
Okay.
I don't think he took up Masonry.
Well, yeah, if he's rubbing shoulders with Ben Franklin and John Hancock,
He's a Freemason then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I doubt they're out there laying bricks.
So he's kind of chilling in Philly until 1775 after the battles of Lexington and Concord. John Paul Jones offers up his services to the new Continental Navy, which was essentially just a bunch of merchantmen and fishermen converted into a pirate navy.
It was about as dog shit as you could possibly imagine.
Real bad.
Really, really bad. Like,
Going against the world's greatest navy.
yes. To the point where I know, like, Lafayette gets all the love from America as far as, like, the French commander in the American Revolution and stuff like that. But we really wanted France and Spain, who, like, also doesn't get, like, any credit in the American Revolution, really, but they joined too. We really wanted them for their Navy. Like, the ground troops were nice and helpful for sure.
Yeah,
but
I remember that scene in The Patriot.
yeah, it was the Navy that we really fucking needed, and not even to, like, beat the British Navy, just to occupy them, like, just to take up their time, because otherwise there was almost nothing we could do to make any dent against these people.
Except John Paul Jones.
Yes.
which we'll get to. So Jones' potential would likely have gone unrecognized were it not for the endorsement of Richard Henry Lee, who was familiar with his past life and knew of his abilities.
That would be Robert E. Lee's father.
Really?
Is it?
That Light Horse Harry Lee?
Yeah.
Richard Henry Lee?
Yeah.
A.K.A. Light Horse Harry Lee?
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm learning something today.
Apparently.
Well, yeah, that's his kid's complicated.
Yeah, one guy. Light Horse Harry Lee was, I would say a top 5 or 6 American commander in the Revolution. Hugely influential American Revolutionary Army commander of the cavalry, I think, hence Light Horse. But his son is Robert E. Lee.
So with Richard Henry Lee and his connects, obviously with Hancock, with Benny Franklin, with some of his Mason boys, Jones is appointed the first lieutenant of the newly converted 24-gun USS Alfred in the Continental Navy on December 7th, 1775. They captured prize ships, including valuable merchant vessels, and destroyed anti-ship artillery. They captured a cargo of 10,000 complete winter uniforms and other equipment which were essential, and they were sent to old George Washington in Valley Forge.
He kept our boys warm.
Kept our boys warm.
Also weird that he was appointed on Pearl Harbor Day.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think the Japanese factored that into the attack?
I think it was huge. Yeah, I think they were like, this is the day. We have to do it.
If there was an actual ship in Pearl Harbor that was named after John Paul Jones that got bombed, I think that would have all but confirmed.
There's a non-zero chance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's who we name boats after. It's like states and people, famous Americans.
Yeah. So John Paul Jones continued his patrol of the New England coast until July of 1777, when he took charge of the newly built Ranger, named in honor of American riflemen. The Ranger was a constructed warship and not a converted merchant vessel. So he actually has a real warship
finally.
Now. Yeah. On November 1st, 1777, All Saints Day.
Yeah.
The Ranger set sail for France. Upon arrival, Jones reported to First Commissioner Ben Franklin, who introduced him to high society in Paris. So this is
How'd he do?
Most likely introduced him to MILFs also.
Yeah,
Franklin's
Gilf.
a big fan of
He was
those.
more of a Gilf guy at that
Oh,
point.
yeah. He liked him real old.
Yeah. Well, he was real old. And he was just,
age appropriate for Ben.
yeah. I mean, Ben was dragging his dick through whatever he felt like, or whatever would go his way.
And so was John Paul Jones.
All right. Yeah. That's what I like to fucking hear.
So he introduces him to Paris society and also international politics. More on that later. He captured more prize vessels and launched raids on the British coast. So he's just kind of going as a pirate, just hitting the British coast, the British Isles.
That is actually an interesting thing people don't realize when you hear about naval battles from this era, and even the Civil War. One of the, I forget who it was. I think the Alabama was the Confederate ship, but there's a famous battle with the Alabama and a Union ship, and it's one of the bigger ship duels of the Civil War. But it happened off the coast of France.
Really?
Yeah, and actually, they were both docked in the same port or something like that in France. But the French are like, "You're not doing this here.
Get out of our water.
Yeah.
Take it outside.
Yeah, you're allowed to dock here and get some food or whatever, but take it out to the international waters." Fuck. And they were I think they were maybe even escorted by French warships. You go do it out there.
They're refereeing.
Yeah, and whoever doesn't die can come back, I guess. But
So he sailed back to Whitehaven, which is kind of where he originally came out of when he was 13. So he's very familiar with the waters.
so he sailed to Scotland?
Yeah.
Did he make
No,
port?
Whitehaven is in Cumberland. So
The UK?
still UK.
England?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess Scotland is UK, but yeah, England, okay.
Mm-hmm. Although sometimes, they tried to get their independence, Rob, a few years back.
More than once.
More than once. But still the UK, despite how hard they try. Despite a nearly mutinous crew, some of whom straight up ignored his orders to go to a nearby pub, he successfully took out the guns at Whitehaven without spilling any blood, adding luster to his reputation.
But it was pretty useless for the war. Like, knocking out some guns in England literally does nothing for American independence at all.
It did. Well,
if anything, it would just piss off the locals.
well, that's what it did.
And make them more dedicated to
Right.
beating the Americans.
So the English newspapers were filled with rumors of John Paul Jones' appearance off many of coastal towns and painted him as a pirate thug.
Yeah, it seems wildly counterproductive to send anyone over there to do anything other than sink ships sending troops to America.
Yeah.
Well, in April of 1778, he made a strange and daring daylight raid on the Earl of Selkirk's mansion, though it did not go as planned.
Okay.
The captain's real purpose in the raid was to kidnap the Earl and exchange him for captured U.S. sailors who were treated as pirates and hanged accordingly instead of prisoner of war. Unfortunately for Jones, the Earl was not at home. Just not there.
Well, you got to try, I guess.
At this time, wouldn't they have been considered privateers? Since they're sanctioned by I guess the U.S. doesn't. Well, it's got kind of a fledgling government at that time. But
They probably don't consider. I guess they would maybe say like you're not a legitimate government, so
yeah, okay.
you're acting in your. Because I guess some pirate could be like, no, I have this little spot on.
They also
I swear
used
we're
to.
legit.
Yeah.
They used to sail under some. They might have committed some war crimes here before there was war crimes. Were there war crimes back then?
Yeah, there was rules of engagement.
Because they would sail under like British flags and then be like, "Gotcha, bitch."
That was definitely a war crime at the time.
Yeah, I was going to say,
for
I
sure.
think that wearing an enemy's uniform and things like that were punishable by death.
There were espionage laws for sure. Like you couldn't do that type of thing. Absolutely not. And then there was like less like official things like don't shoot officers. Like you should be aiming at the privates or whatever. Like
It's the people that don't have money.
Yeah, well, I mean, like it was a thing in the American Revolution at the Battle of. I don't think it was Saratoga because I don't think Washington was there. I really actually can't remember. But thank you,
Joel.
Thank you, Joel.
But there was some battle where some sniper had Washington in his crosshairs, but it was ungentlemanly to shoot a general.
Way.
Yeah, no, like had Washington.
And this is
lined
why
up.
we beat England.
Yeah,
Because we didn't care.
we didn't give a fuck.
We definitely threw those rules out the window by the time the Civil War rolled around.
Yeah, those were all gone by the time the Civil War was there, because so many fucking generals got killed in the Civil War.
So since the Earl wasn't there, he just stole a bunch of fucking silver because his crew was a little unruly and they wanted to at least have some type of return.
Why the fuck not?
But he left a note and he told Lord Selkirk and his lady he apologized and he would return the silver.
Why?
He's just like, I need this so my crew doesn't fucking turn on me again.
War was stupid back then. What? Just fucking take it.
Yeah,
Burn his house down.
It's like
Who
you were
cares?
about to kidnap this man and now you're going to apologize for taking his silver? Like,
burn his fucking house down. Take his shit and burn it down. Who cares? I mean, still feels pretty counterproductive. I mean, it probably jacks up the Americans. Like they're like, yeah, we're sticking it to England or whatever. But like everything he does is like the Doolittle raid, but less. Like it's just not doing anything for anyone except making the other side like more entrenched in their belief. Maybe
that's why he left the note, is because he was like, I know I'm just pretty much recruiting more troops for the war effort, so I'll just leave this nice apology note over here and maybe they'll forgive me for it.
Like, think about how much more popular the Vietnam War would have been here in the United States if, like, once a year there was a Vietnamese suicide bomber in, like, a market on the West Coast. People would be way more into the They'd be like, yeah, man, finish the job. Fuck.
shortly after that, he and the crew took
Vietnamese
out.
really missed their chance.
They really did.
Yeah.
So John Paul Jones and his crew shortly after took out the HMS Drake. Her decks ran with blood and rum, and they captured over 200 prisoners in the process. So he's starting to
All right.
do his thing, starting to hit his stride.
Sounds like a sort of Caribbean Bloody Mary, if you will. You know, just a salty, boozy drink.
Sailor's blood and rum.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds real good. That blood's probably real clean too.
Definitely no hepatitis.
Unfortunately,
and
though,
scurvy.
this is off the coast of England. So like he sailed across the Atlantic and he's just hitting up.
Just fucking shit up. And then going to France or Ireland, I guess?
He always goes back to France
Okay.
because obviously him and Benny are
Yeah.
hitting up the brothels and doing their thing.
Yeah. It's French.
How much time did he spend writing apology notes after he took the Drake?
Yeah, seriously.
200 people? That's a lot of
It's just
notes.
like, I'm sorry I slit your throat. My crew was kind of antsy.
I don't want another mutiny on my hands.
I'll sew your throat back together later.
That's at least 200 apology notes to the families of the crew that he took prisoner.
Yeah.
I would hope
Well, again, it's crew, so how many families? Really?
Families.
It's there's like 90 orphans, and like at least 20 of them were like husbands that just left their family. They didn't need the letter anyway.
Like, no, don't send the letter. My wife's going to figure out where I am.
Yeah.
Just fucking throw me in the ocean if you're going to do that.
In February 1779, the captain was given command of a large ship designed to carry heavy guns. It was called Duc de Duras, but John Paul Jones renamed it the Bonhomme Richard in honor of his friend Benjamin Franklin, who wrote and published
Bonhomme Richard.
Bonhomme Richard, okay. Published Poor Richard's Almanac.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
think
named after
Bonhomme
that.
Richard means Poor Richard.
Poor Richard
Yeah.
in French
Yeah.
or something.
It's kind of strange that there's two subtle Led Zeppelin references in this overall story, because you got John Paul Jones, it's a bass player from Led Zeppelin, then you got John Bonham, the drummer from Led Zeppelin. Strangely connected.
Yeah. Although Bonham means good man, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy that John Paul Jones was
I
a
don't
huge Led Zeppelin fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's fucking wild.
He was into him way before.
Wait, hold on. I thought there was going to be more talk of John Paul Jones and Ben Franklin broing down on French
Oh,
chicks.
it's after this. That's after this.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
All right. Well, I didn't know if you were just like, yeah, that happened, and then you're moving on, or what. I just want to see what John Paul Jones does with someone like 40 years older than him. It'd be like literally. I mean this literally, almost me and my dad, just going bananas in Paris.
Well, Abigail Adams, we'll just skip to this real quick. The wife, obviously, of future President John Adams. Mm-hmm. This is what she wrote of John Paul Jones. Under all this appearance of softness, he is bold, enterprising, ambitious, and active. He has been here often and dined with us several times. He is said to be a man of gallantry and a favorite amongst the French ladies.
Oh.
All right.
I feel like she probably had a thing for him, too. The way she's speaking about him.
I don't know. She's pretty into John, but her and John got down.
They were
Are they
swingers?
No, but they were just like married couple that
Oh.
like to get after it.
They
They were
stayed
very,
young.
they were very, they were in love. They were like a real marriage.
God,
It was
that
sweet.
must have smelled terrible back then.
I can't fucking imagine.
Yeah, but
Like,
you kind of
really-
get used to it now.
I guess that's all you know, right?
Well, yeah, eventually
You don't know cleanliness.
Yeah.
you don't know what stink is unless you know what not stink is.
Right.
If you're just surrounded by stink
It's
all
just the
time.
baseline.
yeah.
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 Yeah, thank God for them. Or else that would have been horrible.
It's a fucking nightmare. Although again, I don't know. Everyone was
Anything-
much.
yeah.
There might maybe that's one of the reasons I guess everyone was much drunker back then.
Yeah.
Right?
Used
Like
to be.
to be an alcoholic in like the 17th, 16th, 18th century, 19th century, even early 20th century. That's just a different galaxy
was
of what is considered an alcoholic now.
Yeah, it was a necessity. Well, I remember you guys, the show that you did about.
Malloy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the one that was drinking the wood alcohol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good Lord.
Yeah.
Iron Mike Malloy. Go ahead and listen to that back catalog if you haven't already. All the episodes are evergreen, but yeah. Irish Hobo episode.
Yeah.
Mike Malloy.
The Unkillable
One-
Irish Hobo is, I would say, maybe my favorite episode.
One of our better episodes, I believe.
I
But
really
yeah.
enjoyed that one.
So go ahead and listen to that if you haven't already. If you have, maybe go back and listen to it again. I don't care.
What I like to say is leave it on for the dog. You have a home. You have a home. Do I have an Alexa or something or a Google Home? Just leave it on for the dog.
Yeah, just leave. And then it just kind of goes through all of our old episodes.
Yeah, just cycle through about. Leave it on for the dog. Then I think if I ever
nothing but bangers.
If I ever had a TV show or whatever, that would be like the fucking advertisement. It's like, yeah, watch it or not, but it's on Hulu. Leave it on for the dog.
That's a pretty good business plan, honestly.
Yeah.
So at sunset on September 23rd, 1779, they encountered the HMS Serapis and the Countess of Scarborough.
So what of Scarborough?
The Countess.
Countess? So a lady.
Well, it's a ship. I feel like ships are.
Oh, the ship was called the Countess of Scarborough.
Yeah,
okay.
I feel like they're often referred to as like female.
Yeah. I didn't know if it was like a woman. Was a ship named?
No,
after
these
a
are
woman.
two ships.
Okay, yeah.
Escorting a fleet of 41 merchantmen, Jones got close by assuming the identity of a British vessel that resembled his own. So again, flying British.
Yeah, war crime.
Yeah,
war crime.
Second episode that I've been on, but that's 2 episodes in a row where we're talking about some celebrated hero that was actually just a bit of a war criminal.
A bit of a war criminal. Yeah.
To make an omelet, you got to crack a few eggs.
You do.
A few war crimes.
Exactly. The battle lasted for several hours, leaving the Richard slowly sinking and on fire, leading to Jones making his famous pronouncement.
Wait, what? Someone said something to him first. What was said to him?
Well, they said they're pretty much asking, "Are you ready to surrender?"
Yeah.
In which he responded, "I have not yet begun to fight."
His famous quote.
So go ahead, Paul Brothers, if you want to take that.
Yeah.
That's a great quote for your business model now.
I really hope that they never find out that they're related to him.
Well, in their defense, they've got a much better saying. It's every day, bro.
Yeah. And what is it's every day, bro, but the modern I have not yet begun to fight. Really?
Essentially, yeah, it was the 1700s version of Catch These Hands.
Yeah. I have not yet begun to grind. Like it really.
So even
is
though
fucking endless.
he's surrounded by British ships, his own ship itself is sinking, it's on fire, and he's just like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, no.
That's, I got to say, that's on par with like Chesty Puller during the Korean War when, I don't remember the exact quote, but during the Korean War, Chesty Puller, I think it was at Chosin Reservoir, possibly. They were completely surrounded, and one of his, I think it was one of his officers was reporting to him that, you know, there's Korean soldiers on every side of him. He's like, oh, those poor bastards, they don't have anywhere to run or something like that.
Love that. General McAuliffe at Bastogne as well, when they were like, surrender. I actually don't get this. It must have just been slang at the time.
Oh, nuts.
Nuts!
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like nuts. I don't know, like nuts to that.
That was the old school version. He just sent him a message essentially that said Ligma.
Yeah.
Like, wait, send him another messenger. What is Ligma?
Yeah, he got to lead with Ligma. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Somehow, though, the Americans actually won this battle.
Despite their boat being in the ocean?
So,
like inside of the ocean?
Big part of this win was due to fellow Scotsman Bill Hamilton, who crawled across the Richard's main yard with a sack of grenades and tossed them into the main hatch of the Serapis, touching off an explosion of powder cartridges. So he pretty much went after the gunpowder and blew that shit up.
Yeah. So
made it go boom, boom.
What happens in like action movies now, when like an explosion makes a bigger explosion, is typically not real, but it used to be very real.
Because everything was just about ready to explode.
Yeah.
Back then. Well, their whole powder magazine, for sure.
Right. It was just like they just put explosives in a pile of wood.
Yeah, what's a
and then floated it.
1779 grenade?
Yeah.
It's just...
I don't know. I think it's just like I mean, they had grenades back then because they were grenadiers and stuff. I really have no idea what a fucking grenade looked like back then.
I mean, I think, isn't that where the old school, like, Looney Tunes style round bomb with the fuse sticking out
Oh,
of it?
yeah, probably. I think you're right.
It's just a stick of dynamite?
No. It's like the little metal bomb, with like the classic, like
black.
in Mario, like the little bombs that walk around.
With the little fuse sticking out
Yeah,
of the top
yeah.
of it.
Okay, so after the explosion, the devastation, Captain Pearson of the Serapis surrenders. In Jones' blasted and ruined luxury cabin, Pearson offered his host his sword, and the two men cordially drank glasses of wine as the poor Richard continued to sink beneath them. So he surrenders in John Paul Jones' cabin as the ship's sinking.
Ship?
Yes.
So where did they go?
What the fuck?
They're just in John Paul Jones' like luxury cabin.
Well, they didn't stay there.
Well, not yet, but they're drinking wine.
Okay.
They gotta talk over the surrender, and then they're just boozing together.
There's like
They're like,
while all the pores are
match,
outside
mate.
bleeding
Like-
to death.
Drowning and getting eaten by sharks.
Yeah. Like there's just like wailing outside. They're like, I'd say they're screaming for their family. We know it's a family out there.
well, yeah, both
But
crews.
like they're still sad that they're dying. And these two are just like, fuck, dude.
both
That was
crews
a rad fight. You want to get
Sustained.
drunk now?
High-fiving each other.
They sustained heavy casualties, and Jones received a head wound. Richard's crew was transferred to the captured Serapis and the other American ships. Although Jones tried hard to save the Richard, she sank beneath the waves the following day, taking some of Jones' belongings with him.
Oh no.
Oh no, we lost
What, he
that.
lost like a fucking painting or something? What? How many possessions did he even have back then? Like he didn't lose his phone. Like, his laptop didn't go under the water.
Oh,
the fuck
God.
was there? He had his sword on him and the sword he took.
Considering the time period, some of those possessions might have included people.
I really hope not.
Well, we already crossed that bridge. He thought it was morally wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
He was no longer a Blackbird.
Well,
Oh, well, morally wrong to trade them if they're already caught.
yeah. Right. It's like, well, I don't know what Apple did, but I mean, I have to buy this laptop. I do need a laptop.
So his victory inspired his French allies and the young country that was very much embroiled with land battles.
What year was that?
1779.
That battle was?
Yeah.
Okay.
He received many military honors and a special gold medal, which he helped design.
Ah, well.
One side showed his handsome profile, and the other had a likeness of a victorious but doomed, the Bonhomme Richard,
Okay.
the poor Richard. His rock star status, good looks, and gentle manners earned him much appreciation. The French King Louis the 16th?
It's Louis when it's French, but yes.
Louis the 16th.
Yeah.
Gave him the Order of Military Merit, which allowed him to sign his name. Is it Chevalier Paul Jones?
Yeah.
Which he sometimes did.
So he was knighted by the French,
Yes.
essentially. Yeah, so he's a French knight.
He was a French knight.
Yeah.
He left without a proper rank as Congress chose to give him a gold medal rather than a position after the war. So John Paul Jones was a free agent. He helped win the Revolutionary War. He's a knight. I guess he's knighted by the French. But now,
Even though you're not allowed to hold titles as an American.
well, this is young America.
Yeah, maybe they hadn't. I feel
We
like that
haven't
was one
really-
of their early stipulations,
We haven't
but
worked that out yet.
had they? Hadn't they? That felt like half the point.
So, he kind of got down with the French, with Benny Franklin. He's got that title. He's hitting up a lot of, local brothels.
Right.
He can do no wrong.
He has done no wrong. So I mean, aside from the slave trading, he's done no wrong so far.
Aside from that little thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But he rebelled
He was
eventually.
young, and it was a long time ago.
I was young. Yeah.
Yeah, the war crimes
Well,
too.
yeah,
and the war crimes.
Multiple previous war crimes.
Yeah. All's well that ends well.
So after the war, John Paul Jones takes up he has a fancy with Russian Empress Catherine the Great,
Ooh.
who offers to command her navy. He performed well in the...
What years is this? What year?
Is that a euphemism also? Wasn't Catherine the Great the one that was fond of horses? Or am I thinking of a different queen?
I don't know.
I believe you're correct there, Coop.
Just liked horses.
Sorry if I'm jumping ahead in the story.
No, he performed well in the Lyman campaign against the Turks in the Black Sea. So this is...
So many people fight the Turks.
I know, everyone fights the Turks.
Everyone fights the
John
Turks at
Smith
some point.
fought the Turks.
Yeah.
He was also on a ship. I know we kind of breezed over this earlier, but John Smith was he was a captured...
Sex slave?
No, he wasn't a sex slave, but he was arrested on a boat, and then when they got to the colony in Virginia, they're like, "You're in charge now."
Yeah, but he was a slave of the Turks, and he also, as a slave, had sex with
A
one
lot
of
of
his
Turkish
owners.
women.
Yeah. A Turkish noblewoman.
So go ahead and listen to the John
Which
Smith
kind of
episode.
makes him a sex slave a little bit. Like, how much choice do you have at that? I mean, maybe it was consensual.
a
I don't
crazy
know,
life.
but like, you don't really say
you can't
no.
really say no in that
Right.
situation.
So the Queen's favorite, he just kind of became besties with, he probably boned the Queen of Russia, the Russian.
He
Catherine the
definitely
Great?
fucked Catherine the Great.
Yeah, he fucked Catherine the Great.
If it's the queen that I'm thinking of, then I would be much more surprised if he didn't.
Then did. Yeah.
Because if it's like I said, if it's the queen that I'm thinking of, she was down for that kind of thing, to put it lightly,
For fucking.
all the time.
All right. I like that about Catherine the Great. Wasn't she... No, she wasn't the one. She was like pretty brutal, wasn't she?
I'm not sure.
Ruling-wise? I can't remember.
I would imagine by today's standards, most of them were.
Or actually, wait, was Catherine the Great the one that the peasants were... Not the peasants. I forget what you call them. The serfs. Didn't she like liberate them? Emancipate them? Because the Russian serfs were emancipated the same year as the Emancipation Proclamation in 1862. But this would predate that, unless Catherine the Great was pretty young.
Well, either
I think she
way,
would have had to been really young, because I was like over 70 years before that, because we're in the 1780s or something like that.
yeah, we're getting into the 80s now. A little jelly though, a little jealous of our man here, because he's still just fucking his way through Russia, and she doesn't really want to share. So
Wait, so he's fucking other chicks in Catherine the Great's Russia.
yeah,
It's bold.
Yeah.
In that country especially.
continues to enjoy women who offered themselves up, and eventually a fresh-faced peddler girl makes him a proposition, and that goes down, and he's essentially set up for rape.
Okay.
Wait, in that time period?
Yeah.
It seems like that's kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
Wait, and she was just a peddler, like she was a peasant.
Yeah. So
I didn't even think that they would prosecute that.
popular sentiment rose
Right.
against him, although it was later revealed that the girl was not exactly telling the truth.
That doesn't sound shocking based on what you said about Catherine the Great.
Yep, it came to light that this was probably a political plot created by the enemies he made while in Russia, including his homegirl.
Oh no. Why would you cheat on the emperor? I mean, I guess you're just taking anything at that point.
Yeah.
I don't think he really, kind of considered the consequences of where he put his dick.
Well, he didn't consider the consequences of a sinking boat,
Yeah,
Or
if the guy is gonna,
slave trading, or
Well,
I
he
guess
did.
he did
He
eventually
did do
consider
that.
that, but eventually, or ruining his brother's marriage by broing down too much in downtown Fredericksburg.
So as this goes down and they're about to crack down and prosecute him, he bails, obviously. You got to get the fuck out of Mother Russia.
Yep, time to go.
Returns to Paris. During this time, the French were experiencing their own revolution, and his health was very poor. Although the Swedes did offer him the chance to fight against his old Russian pals, he died in debt on July 18th, 1792, before he could accept any offer for a forthcoming position as either a Swedish commander or anything in the U.S. He was 45, and that was a pretty eventful 45 years.
Fairly. Wait, how'd he die though?
Yeah.
Get the fever like that guy he killed?
It's probably old age at this point, 45.
Had he ever been wounded in battle?
Head injury.
Head injury?
Yeah, during that battle where ship started.
But what does that mean? Like knocked in the head, bullet graze, like an infection situation? Like what are we talking?
Homeboy threw grenades and there was explosions. Maybe he took like a chunk of wood to the head.
I mean, there's explosions all over the place with him. He's in battles left and right.
So Jones' French friends paid for the funeral, and he was buried in a lead-lined coffin in the cemetery for Protestant foreigners.
Was he
radioactive?
Yeah.
At this point, he is.
Why was he in the... I do like that they were like, well, we can't put him in the Catholic cemetery, obviously. During the Revolution, by the way, as they were like, fuck the Catholic Church. Like, they were trying to, like, tear down the Catholic Church, like, the second estate, I believe. Yeah. That's funny. They're just like, well, we got to keep it good here for the Catholics.
He was actually moved in 1905 when American authorities located his coffin in the now overbuilt cemetery. They were able to find it relatively easy because it was lined with lead.
Will they have a metal detector? Like, what?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also still just confused on why the lead-lined coffin. Was that a common thing for them to be doing back in those days?
I mean, lead was in everything.
Oh, true.
I guess. Well, why is it noteworthy then? It seems like
it was noteworthy because they were able to find the coffin in 1905 because it was lead-based.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's easy to kind of just get that. So the body was moved back to America and shown on 11 battleships.
Wait, we showed the body?
The coffin, yeah.
Okay.
Fredericksburg was among the places that was where they considered putting his final resting place, but he ended up in the Naval Academy Chapel in Annapolis.
Yeah, seems fair. Mm-hmm. Father of the Navy, why not?
And that is the story of John Paul Jones. So, what are your thoughts? What are your takeaway from who was the better John Paul Jones?
Well, I'm honestly surprised that there was such a large quantity of sex in this John Paul Jones story, because there was also a whole bunch of sex in the other John Paul Jones story, the one from Led Zeppelin, which I'm disappointed that we didn't get to talk about the mud shark story up in Seattle.
Well, go ahead.
Enlighten us, for the love of God.
Have you guys not heard the story of Led Zeppelin in the hotel up in Seattle? I think it was Seattle, somewhere in Washington. They were all having a party. It was them and this other band called Vanilla Fudge, and Vanilla Fudge was a group that actually helped Led Zeppelin get their start. And they brought a groupie up to their room. She was totally just high as a kite. I mean, I feel like probably
as one does from the 70s, 60s.
But the way the hotel was set up, it was out over I think it was a Puget Sound. So guests at the hotel were able to fish out of the window. They could just go out on their balcony or out the window, cast a line, and reel in fish. Well, the guys from Led Zeppelin had caught a mud shark. Well, any of the fish that they were catching, they were putting in a makeshift aquarium that they made out of their bathtub. They just filled it up with water, and they were tossing the fish in there. And
as one does, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
It's a hotel bathtub.
Toss some salt in there, and it's perfect. Yeah, it's fine.
So this groupie came up to the room insisting on making a movie because they found out that they had a camera there. So I think it was Jimmy Page and Robert Plant decided to fulfill her wish of making a movie, and they took the mud shark, and at first, well, they had her get naked, climb onto the bed, and they tied her to the bed, and then they started whipping her with the now dead body of the mud shark. And then there's a few different versions of the story, but from the most consistent versions have them cutting the shark up into pieces and then putting those pieces inside of the groupie and not through the entrance that you usually put food in. Both of the other entrances that you don't normally put food in.
Okay.
And apparently somewhere in the world there exists an old school bit of footage of this happening, but from what I can tell, nobody's ever seen it or found it.
I hope that's destroyed.
And
not for Led Zeppelin's sake. Just
I
for
don't
humanity's
think
sake.
it's off the table to say this John Paul Jones also did that.
I would not be surprised
Yeah.
if he was hanging out with Catherine the Great.
If he was hanging out with her. Any Russian royalty, nothing's off the table.
This is also this is actually just so happens to be during the same time period of the last episodes that we were doing on the Iconoblast podcast. We were talking about Marquis de Sade. And this is during the same time period. And the stuff that he was coming up with back then, the ideas that he had and the things that he did, honestly worse than any musicians that I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think about
modern
it. He's
day.
been on the open sea since he was 13. You have nothing but time.
Idle hands.
Yeah.
A lot of things went through that brain.
Yeah.
Just
Idle
looking
hands.
out on a flat
Got to keep yourself busy somehow.
sea.
Yeah. Eventually you get bored, you start thinking of ways to do weird shit. Although Led Zeppelin's like the opposite because they had plenty of stuff to do. And then they just still did that because they had done everything. Right? So it's the other thing. Like if hands are too busy or hands are too, like you just need a medium.
You get bored either direction you
Yes.
go.
Right.
Stay
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there at the top of the bell curve. or
Yeah.
else things
You-
get
it's where you
real
wanna
fucking
be.
weird.
What'd you guys learn today? Anything?
I don't fucking know. Life was complicated back then. Really just what I learned is that as long as I'm near something, I'm kind of adjacent to it, right?
Yeah.
That's what I learned.
Yeah, he was noble Jason.
I'm all sorts of adjacent.
Coop, how about you?
I think what I learned today is that sometimes rebellious teenagers can land on the right idea by rebelling. Because
Yeah.
went against
Just by
slavery.
dumb luck,
it's pretty
yeah.
good.
Yeah, against the slave trade.
Against the slave trade.
Yeah. We
I
don't know
think
how he
that's-
felt.
I
We don't know
think
how he felt
that's-
about homegrown slaves.
He was anti-slavery adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, in a sense, it was kind of like a blanket for
Yeah.
anti-slavery at some point. We thought it was morally
Well,
wrong.
here's the thing: the Adamses were noted abolitionists, and I didn't hear any of that from him necessarily. So much as
Maybe he
was-
saw the light.
Yeah. Well, the Adams from the beginning. I mean, John Adams was a pragmatist, so he was like, I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Do you think he fucked Abigail Adams?
I don't.
Okay.
I think Abigail was pretty.
She seemed taken by him.
Dude, what? Martha Washington said that Alexander Hamilton was a tomcat or something. It's whatever. Like they just like the married woman would write about the non-married man and just be like, "Yo, he's the devil." I think also she was like decently older than him.
Could you imagine, though, if all the founding fathers just fucking swap wives?
It'd be pretty funny.
I don't think we've considered that, but
Yeah.
it's still on the table.
I mean, if there was anyone down to do that, it'd be Jefferson, since I don't think he had a wife.
No, he didn't.
Did he? Jefferson never married? I feel like he wasn't.
I don't think so.
He had a kid with
Sally Hemings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which she was his John Smith.
yeah.
Is John Smith what
that's
we're calling
dark.
it nowadays?
Yeah. He John Smithed her.
Anyway, that is the story of John Paul Jones and the American Revolution. Make sure to go back and check out any episode, including the John Smith episode that you haven't listened to already on Softcore History. All the content is this good, I think. I think all of our episodes have been fairly strong. Fairly strong.
Well, the ones with Jake are kind of whatever.
Yeah. Like skip over anyone Jake does.
Yeah, anything with Jake on it, don't listen.
So you've got at least 2 episodes that you can listen to.
Yeah, like 2 to
that are
3
solid.
that are pretty good.
Make sure to go to the store, softcorehistory.com. We got some merch, T-shirts, Topsy tees. We've been selling those. We're nowhere close to me getting the tattoo.
Was it 1,000? We sell 1,000
shirts
t-shirts.
gets me the Topsy logo tattooed on my body. I think we're like, I don't know, like 30.
Yeah, go to softcorehistory.com. Just see that, or go to our Instagram at softcorehistory. You can see the logo. Dan will get that tattooed where?
I haven't decided yet, but it will be on my body and it will be visible.
Yeah, be prominent, right?
It won't like be an ass tat.
I mean, you have a visible frat tat, so
it might be on my arm or something.
yeah, you're
Maybe my
not
leg.
afraid of visible tattoos.
No, we've already talked about this. I am not afraid to litter my body with bad tattoos because at this point I am.
Who cares?
I'm already a waste.
Yeah.
Me either. I've been doing it for
You
years.
got 2 sleeves.
Yeah.
Well, sleeve and a half.
We're getting there.
Make sure to leave a review, 5 stars if you care. Tell a friend about the pod. Help us grow. Subscribe, unsubscribe, subscribe again. And just, help us go up the charts. Tell a friend about the pod. We've been growing. Shouts to the state of Arizona, I guess.
Yeah, Gilbert.
Phoenix. A lot of listeners in Arizona.
Really?
Really weird. Yeah.
Big Arizona podcast.
Maybe we'll have to do a
knows?
meetup in Arizona. I don't know. If you're in Arizona, make sure to leave that in the review.
Yep.
Yeah, you can also just grab your friend's phone, friends, family members, anything like that.
Yes.
And just without them knowing, subscribe to
Steal
the podcast.
your
podcast,
mother's
please.
phone.
It works surprisingly well.
Steal your dad's phone.
Please and thank you. For Coop Cooperson, because I refuse to call you Matt Cooper.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rob Fox. I'm Dan Regester, and you just got soft serve.
Gold medaled.